Hello and welcome to the Point to Rise show. This is your host, Susanne, former international ballerina that found her passion in mindset, business, and technology, and is today the founder of Rise Media. It is my purpose to use all the experiences of my past to create a better, financially sustainable future for the performing arts industry. And that starts with every single one of us. I believe that being you is your superpower. And I am here to guide you, empower you, inspire you, and give you all the resources you need to rise above what you think you're capable of. Every week, I'll bring you free shows featuring guests, collaboration, and mini episodes to ensure that you have the support in your journey as a performer. I want you to know that you are not alone. Stop chasing and start creating. Your success starts now, here with you. So let's welcome back to the show. I am so grateful to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. Today's guest is Amy Colombo. Now, Amy and I connected via, Facebook, I think it was. And she gifted me 2 free inner healing session. And I could not share her gift with all of you. So Amy Colombo is a registered nurse, transformative life coach, and single mom to 3 boys. She's passionate about personal development, science, and inner child healing. She's a self-proclaimed lifelong learner, creating life on her terms. Her personal journey of healing from childhood trauma, depression, and rage has led her to serving others and coaching through personal transformation. Amy coaches people to rise, heal, and discover the truth within themselves. She will get to the root of your block and help navigate you into personal freedom. Amy provides a sacred space where judgment does not exist, only deep explorative curiosity with a foundation of love. In this space, anything is possible. There are no limits, as Amy will tell you time and time again when working with her. Amy is gifted in that she can get you to feel safe while challenging you to explore your darkest parts. You will fairly and truly enjoy this conversation. I have learned in just 2 hours sitting with her so much about my limiting beliefs and where they're coming from. And I'm giving you this not only as my own learnings, but also something that perhaps you can dive into. So without no further ado, here's Amy. And we are back. Amy, welcome to the show. I'm so grateful that you're here and that we can share this conversation, and more so our connection that we have established over the past, I would say, 2 weeks with the audience. So welcome, darling.
I'm so happy to be here, Susan. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay, so we, of course, you know me, we were chatting prior to strategizing what we should be talking about or what would really truly offer the most value to the audience listening. So here's what I would love to start with. 2020 has presented to you a shift in your life, in your career, in things that you were doing. Help us understand or share that story with us. Like, what has 2020 really opened up for you and led you to doing today?
Yeah, great question. So the pandemic actually was this opportunity for me. It was an opportunity of time. My biggest limiting belief in the past was always, I don't have time. I don't have time. That would be my inner dialogue. And I literally one day woke up and heard myself say 3 words I had never said in my life. I have time. And from that moment, I was like, okay, well, what do I want to start doing, that I haven't been able to do in the past? And I started by uncluttering my entire house. I had read, the Japanese tidy queen, Marie Kondo's book, and just started there. And literally that was a pipe dream for me, like touching every item I ever owned and deciding if it's staying or going. But I actually accomplished that. And then I was like, okay, what else do I want to do? And then I started making my home more beautiful for myself, right? And then I started asking myself the deeper questions, right? Because I had all this time for personal development, which was always a huge hobby of mine. So started reading a ton of books, giving myself permission. That was another thing I would never read. I started reading audiobooks, to be fair, audiobooks, and started asking myself those big questions like, okay, I'm 44 years old. Like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Is nursing for me? I'm a nurse by trade. I've been a nurse, registered nurse for 21 years. And it was like coming up like, well, I like it, but I don't love it, right? And then it was like asking myself those big questions like, well, what do I love? Like, what would I do for free that I love so much? And that's when like I was doing this energy work and I was like, I love doing this energy work called tapping, and I love personal development and I love exercise. And then just by nature of, I don't know if it's the universe or the Facebook algorithm, I feel like they work together. The universe or the Facebook algorithm just brought up this advertisement for coaching school for nurses. Like it was just for nursing. So I was like, oh my goodness. And I got on a call and applied. And like within a couple of weeks, that was it. I decided, yeah, it's now or never. And just went to school for coaching. And then, yeah, I've been coaching for about the last year ever since. And now I'm literally like in transition. I'm transitioning careers and going to be doing this for myself full time. But yeah, that in a nutshell is my story of how I came to coaching and what the pandemic, afforded me, which was time that I had never had before. And that just opened just by virtue of releasing that limiting belief of like, I don't have time, just opened up all these doors for me to like start doing things that I never thought I could do.
That is a very powerful story.
Hmm.
Okay. The question for me arises here. You're a registered nurse and you stayed home. You weren't allowed to do your job. Help me understand.
Yeah, so no. So in the pandemic, I was going into work still. The time that I was afforded was just that whole, there's no social outings, there's no birthday parties, there's no like sports for the kids, right? I have 3 kids, right? There's no sports for the kids. The kids were, virtual learning at home. And my youngest child, his father, we're not together. We're very good friends, but we're not together. He started working from home. So whereas I used to have my son 5 days a week, now all of a sudden me and him were splitting him. So anyone that has a young child knows what a big deal that is. So for me to have like 3-4 days a week to myself without my youngest, whereas my older kids were teenagers and they're pretty self-sufficient, that's what really afforded me the time was, but no, I was still going into work. I was still doing my job the whole time. And yeah, that was where I got the time to do all this stuff.
You know what I love about all of this is that you were so open to see that all of this distraction actually gave you time where, you could easily think and look at how my question was phrased. And I'm like, but you were still working. You were still, putting in your 10, 12 hours a day. So how did you manage to still look at it? Oh my gosh, I'm gaining all this time. And I think that is such a beautiful example that, yeah, you're doing your work and you're doing what is paying the bills right now. And all of the other stuff are distractions that we have put into place into our life, willingly or not, that, at times there are ways around it when we allow ourselves to actually really truly look at it. Because how many times have we heard or told ourselves or have heard from others, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have time for that. And I have learned that I do it too, openly and honestly, that is a crop out in any possible way. It's just we're too full up here to see the possibilities that are opening up or could opening up if we're asking different questions. So that was so, I think I want to say bravo, because you could have done completely different or seen it as, okay, now I can rest. I don't have to do anything, versus, oh, what could I do? What do I really want to do? So yeah, beautiful. And a great example of how we can expand our time and multiply it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say that that is a big limiting belief for a lot of people, like you said. But the truth is, everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. And we do have the time. That is the truth. We have to find it and we have to make it happen for ourselves. And interestingly, there is a synonymous relationship with uncluttering, because, Marie Kondo's, I love Marie. She's like, you shouldn't need, like storage spaces or this, like whatever you live in, you can make room for all your stuff in whatever you live in, whether it's a tiny house, whether it's an apartment, or whether it's a big home. Like you should be able to, match your things with the space that you have. You shouldn't need extra space. So just like everybody's thinking, oh, I need extra time. No, you just need to find the time in your 24 hours. It's there. It takes some discipline. It does. It takes some, mainly discipline and just deciding what's most important to you, but it's there. You can find it.
Mm-hmm. It's a matter of choice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you beautifully showed up in my life by, I don't know, the universe or the Instagram algorithm, both perhaps, because they're one. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And you and I had these beautiful sessions where I didn't even know what to expect when we connected. However, I just said yes, because I had really nothing to lose, truly, only to gain. So talk to us a little bit about the work that you're doing now, okay? And then we're gonna go into why that is actually important, particularly for creatives.
Oh, yeah. So good. So I'm such a fan of coaching. I'm a life coach, and the process of coaching is just so beautiful. It's really aligned with me and who I am. But I come together with a client, highly energetic. My superpowers as a coach really are just intuitive, deep listening. We have needs, we have these human needs, and a lot of us didn't get them when we were younger. We need to be seen, we need to be heard, we have a need to be understood, we have like a need to be loved. And that's what I do as a coach. I literally do all of those things in a session. I see you, I hear you, I am understanding, right? I'm not judging you. I'm looking at it from this beautiful, objective, like we just objectively look at everything, and I listen. And then we can do so many things in sessions. Some of the things that I'm working on with people are, some people want to, they want to call in the one, they're ready for that love of their life. Some people, are going through a crisis, as they call it. They'll call it a midlife crisis. And then I like to say, okay, well, we're going to reframe this. It's going to be a midlife transformation is what's on the other side of that. And we're just working on all different things, a lot of big emotions, a lot of decision making. But something that I do with a lot of people is you really take what's going on today and we will trace it back. We will trace it back to the roots and origins of it, which, spoiler alert, for everybody, is our childhood. So there's a lot of inner child work being done, and it's super powerful. It's really super powerful and eye-opening to bring people back there, safely. And for them to be able to compassionately and empathetically come into their child's mind, because as children, we are making so many conclusions about ourselves and about the world based on what's happening. And here we are, like 3, 4, 5 years old. And to think that, okay, now I'm 40, 50, and I'm still subconsciously running that program that I downloaded at age 5, right? So I will bring people back there and we will just explore and discover, and then we will find out, well, what did that child need? What did that child really need at that time? And then I'm helping people to develop their inner parents now, because we're always parenting ourselves at any given moment, Susan. And I think we all know that parent that's in our head that we call the inner critic, that's like really, harsh. Most of us have internalized that voice when we were younger, and that voice usually comes from the people around us. But I actually help people develop different types of internal voices, the teacher, the warrior, that's where your boundaries come in. The protector, maybe you weren't protected when you were younger, and you need protection. The lover, just the unconditional lover. I think of like my grandma when I was young, like whenever I need to remember how to love myself, I think of my grandmother, because there was just that beautiful unconditional love there. It didn't matter what I did. She always loved me, right? So that's really what I'm helping people do. And if we want to like tailor make it for creatives, interestingly, a lot of people are finding their creative side with me. It's a side that they've kind of stuffed or put down, because when you're in survival mode, you're more in your head and you're more logical and you're more like do, like you're kind of like in this do mode, and all these external things provide validation, they provide worthiness for you. So people will find their creative side. And what's beautiful, and we were talking a little bit about this before, this is the beauty, this is the part people don't know. Yes, we go back. Yes, we explore your trauma. Yes, we explore trauma, big T, little t. So this is another thing people don't know. There's people that were abused and they know they have trauma, right? Like actual abuse, violence, physical abuse, sexual abuse, right? But then there's people that are like, well, I kind of had a good childhood. Like my parents loved me, like they did the best they could, but they weren't seen, they weren't heard, they weren't encouraged to be their most authentic selves. They were conditioned out of who they truly were. And that is a trauma in and of itself. So another spoiler alert, most of us have trauma, whether it's big T or little t. So once we kind of clear that out a little bit, then we can go, okay, well, let's form this beautiful relationship with your inner child, and let's go to the places that were good. Let's go to the good memories, like the fun memories. Like, what did you do? What did you love? What did you play with, right? Like, what did you love to play? Who did you think, and when you were in that time when you could be or do anything, like who were you going to be? What were you going to do? And we'll go there. And that inner child really does hold all the secrets to your purpose, to your dreams, to like what brings you the most happiness, and how you're really meant to serve others through your gifts and talents and what you might have naturally been blessed with. So there is this beautiful, fun side to inner child work, which is amazing for creative people, because they're already tapped into that creative side, which is beautiful. But to go back and form that alliance and really become that inner parent, they can break the ceiling of any barriers that they're experiencing, really.
Okay. So first of all, I wanted to say that you're so great in asking the right question and hearing what your clients at times can't say yet. I noticed that was really not scary, surprising to me. I didn't expect that. And then when you talked about the subconscious, let's go there a little bit, because not many people know actually how this is all working, right? Like, why would I need to reparent my inner child? Like, what do let's take it down a little bit. And can you talk to us about how our subconscious mind influences our day-to-day action-taking ability, our day-to-day life?
Yeah, that is great. So, okay, you may be on a conscious level, right? This is an example. On a conscious level, it's like, oh, I was raised in, a violent household, and my dad treated my mother terribly. And like, now I'm a grown woman and I want a good man. I want a man that loves me, that treats me well, that like doesn't abuse me. And consciously you're saying that to yourself, but subconsciously you find yourself in these situations where you're repeating patterns and you don't know how you got there. That's the subconscious. The subconscious energetically is always running and loves what's familiar. So even though you're saying like, I want something different, you're attracting in what's familiar to you because the familiar feels safe. So oddly, you're like safe in the unsafe, right? And it just kind of, like I said, it's almost like a downloaded program. So here's the other thing. If you were abused as a child, or you were, again, like conditioned out of your most authentic self, you have a deep wound there, like of unworthiness, right? And again, you're not consciously walking around saying, I'm unworthy, I'm unworthy. Like none of us are saying that, right? But you're three, usually it's pretty young. It's usually they're like 3, could be younger, could be like 5. Your 3, 5, 7-year-old self decided they were unworthy, right? And because they were trying to make sense of the world and trying to make sense of what was happening around them. So really decided, I must be unworthy, like I must be unlovable for all of this to be happening. And that's your subconscious. So subconsciously, you are attracting in, a romantic partner from that sense of unworthy. So what's beautiful about the work we do is we will get to those roots and origins and we will heal those, right? Those conclusions. And we need to actually forgive ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves for all the shame that we carry. We need to forgive ourselves. And that's another spoiler alert. People are very fixated on the abuser, but it's really me, myself, and I need to forgive myself for being abused, right? Because like I decided I was unworthy from this and I have all this shame for being abused. And, on a personal note, I will never forget when I discovered that deep in a meditation. And I was like, I forgive myself. I just was like bawling, crying for like a long time. Like I was like, oh my God, I need to forgive myself for what I experienced, even though it wasn't my fault, because it wasn't. But yeah, so again, to your question, the subconscious, it's really deep. It's really deep, and it's in, it's in your body, and it's just running, and it's running whether you're aware of it or not. So you don't have to believe it. It's running. And, I just ask people like, so what's happening now? Like what's happening now that's got your attention that you're not liking, that keeps showing up? If it keeps showing up, it's a subconscious pattern. It's a subconscious belief that's running that pattern. And another spoiler alert, everything's healable. So there's hope for everybody out there, even the people that think there's no hope for me. There's absolutely hope for you.
Interesting that you bring that up, because so I grew up with the belief given to me by other people that we can't change people. And the older and older they get, they can't change because they're so run in their way that there is no hope, basically. Right? I came to learn that that isn't the truth, because change is really only a decision away. The path to the changed behavior, to the changing the belief, might be a little bit more rockier because you have accumulated other gifts on the way that require releasing. And it's possible, like no matter where you are at, no matter at what age you are, you are capable of reprogramming. I heard somebody say this morning that, we're talking about healing and then I can do this, or fixing and then I can do this. And this person said, and I am that person that has put I need to heal this first and then this will come to me. No, we can do both at the same time. Like we can heal and reparent and restructure and use that as maybe removing 1 or 2 obstacles on our path that we can climb over, or make them smaller, or smooth them out, or push them into the pathway. Nobody is broken. We're all just and beautiful as we are. And I think it is in our responsibility. And this is why I really wanted to talk to you about this today. There is so much out there, particularly in the arts world, shut off your inner voice, stop comparing yourself. You can do this. And we're not yet going deep enough to where is this all coming from? Like, remember when you started training, why you started training for whatever it is. And so many of us have forgotten what that looks like. And then we end up in our mid-20s or early 30s in this complete disalignment that we don't even know anymore why we're showing up on a daily basis, right? And I believe that this kind of work is for everybody. I think it's a privilege for us to do this. I think it's necessary that we all look into how we can understand ourselves better, how we can re-love ourselves so we can give more love. I mean, if we're looking outside of our North American bubble right now, or even on the inside, and what the suffering or the shame that so many people are carrying really has produced, it doesn't need to be that way. Hurt people, and we're seeing this over and over and over again. And I think it's on every single person to stop that cycle, even though we don't believe that we have the influence or the power to do so. We can influence our little table or our little bubble, and then that bubble will influence another bubble. So don't underestimate your capabilities. That's what I'm really saying. Performer or not. I think even, and to make this a really quick point here, performing artists are so seen in the world, right? With their art, they're capable of bringing things out in maybe funny ways or in visual ways that could be changed in the world. They're the changers, the rule breakers, the game changers, or at least have the ability to do so. And that means that we can do that with ourselves first. Actually, it's our responsibility to heal ourselves first, so we can then step outside onto the stages and bring that to the world. And I have yet to understand why that is not even implemented in any kind of teaching that performing artists go through when they're trained. It's just, I don't understand. However, this is your message. This is your call to action. Go and figure yourself out, understand psychology, neuroscience, all of these are not just for the expert. Like, you can have a base knowledge around it, and it will make such a huge difference in your life and how you carry yourself, how you react, how you respond, not react, what kind of actions you take, and how you interact with other people, I would say. Thank you for letting me get this out.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
When I found you very intuitive, okay, because you really drop into that other person's energy, and that requires courage and self-esteem. Let's talk about that journey, because I'm certain, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was not something that you had from the beginning.
Yeah. So much there. I was just so deeply listening to your conversation about change and the whole thing.
Please add.
So courage, and that is one of my superpowers in coaching. That really is. You would be surprised that sometimes just deeply listening to someone, hearing them, seeing them energetically for the other person feels, they can have a breakthrough in and of themselves. My whole job really is not to advise you. There's so much advice out there. There's so much knowledge. My job is to guide you to your own answers, right? because just like you said before, we're not broken. We're all whole human individuals. We have these parts to us. And my job is to help you understand all your parts, the light and the shadow, right? And just to really, really listen and almost like listen for those clues, you know, and then ask you. And then what I would do is ask you more questions to help you think, to help you come up with your own answers. And that really is what I do. And to your point of courage and self-esteem. So here's another thing. People look at people with courage and they think like, oh, wow, like she or he has so much courage. They're so brave. Like they were just born that way. Courage is a skill that gets practiced.
It's a muscle, right? Yeah.
It just gets practiced. Patience is a skill that can be practiced. Self-love is a skill that can be practiced. So even being mindful. So like what I do teach and what I do give people is I give people tools to work with, but I explain to them, this is going to require you to practice. And here's the beauty of the work. You now get to utilize your real life to practice these skills. Like when you're triggered, that's the perfect opportunity for you to just notice, right? And go give yourself a couple of minutes and go self-explore and self-soothe. And that's truly is self-love, right? Like just noticing and being mindful in that moment. Self-esteem, courage, those are all things that we all struggle with, but I have done a lot of inner work on that. And I'm going to be truthful. Like I do have my moments. I actually just, you know, had a session with a friend of mine the other day because I was like stuck in self-doubt, but I will say now I notice it a lot quicker. And then I can do what I need to do for myself. And then when I need help, I now reach out and ask for it. But these are all skills that I learned, right? Really just bringing people back to the basics. Because what I will say with creative people too, as you were talking about people in the arts, is that they have these beautiful talents, right? That they want to share with the world. They're dancing, they're singing, like, oh my gosh, and just these beautiful talents. But if they have trouble, right? If they have a fear of rejection, or if they have this deep-seated belief that they're unlovable or that they're unworthy, that is going to get in the way at a certain point. They will hit a ceiling. So I want to say for anyone out there that feels like they're stuck, right? Or they feel like they can only get so far and then they can't quite push through that ceiling, that's where your next, like your work is right there. That's on the other side of that stuck, on the other side of that challenge is your biggest breakthrough and release that's going to bring you to the next. So, you know, we're all like operating from these parts of us, and there will come a point where when you want to level up, you know, when you want to bring in more abundance, when you want to vibrate on a higher level, when you want to, you know, become more successful, you know, and you want to, again, which is abundance, bringing it in, you're going to need to call up other parts of you. And you're going to need to help understand those parts of you that are holding you back, because they're really trying to protect you. They're trying to keep you safe, right? So we want to like dive in, explore them, understand them. And then you do have the power and the capability to call them down and call up something new. And then you'll have the opportunity to practice your courage, because trying something new and different is always going to be scary. Yeah.
Well, I hope you all heard this. So in order to up level or to break through the glass ceiling, which by the way, that term I hadn't heard until like maybe 3 years ago, not even, sitting in a mastermind, I was like, what's a glass ceiling? Like breaking through the glass ceiling. You want to do the honor? What does that mean? Like, let's put it into a very, very common denominator.
Yeah. Yeah, basically that is that wall. That's that wall that you hit where you're looking and you can see, like you can see, you know what you want, but you just can't get there and you don't know why. And you're just like sort of stuck, right? And you just feel like you're looking out at what you want, but you can't get to it, right? That would be it. And what I want to say is, if you can see it in your mind's eye, then it is meant for you. Like, it is your destiny. It is absolutely possible. We are the creators of our lives. We are creating our reality. So yeah, that's what that glass ceiling is. And I want to tell people, if they are listening, you are not alone. We all feel so lonely, right? Like, when people come to me, they feel so alone and lonely in their despair, in their stuckness, in their midlife crisis, in their running these patterns. They feel so alone and lonely. But take it from someone who does this, we're all going through this, which is the crazy part, because we could really support each other more on these journeys, because we're all on our journey, and I'm meeting people where they're at, but the themes are pretty human. So that's what I love about coaching, is that, like, again, to your point, we're not broken, right? We're just humans having a human experience. And in the human experience, we do get stuck and we do run patterns, but everything is healable.
Yes. Hey, I wanted to say earlier that you may not know what you want to heal about yourself, or you may not know where it's coming from or what it is. You'll discover it with Amy's help. Truly. Like, I had so many aha moments, like, oh, and even like just in days and days after it's sitting with you, they're just like images coming to my head and memories of my childhood. I'm like, oh, that's what I've forgotten about this. And it's not only about the childhood, it's also when I was going through ballet school. Like, all of these memories are coming back in. It seems like it was really hard for me to tap into my childhood. Like, for whatever reason, like that, I'm tearing up as we're speaking about it.
Yeah, I see that.
Because there's still so much, I don't know if it's like trauma or like unhealed, undiscovered emotions that have yet to be released are coming up. And I was judging myself around that though. Where now, and it was really hard in our first session to just like look at her, talk to her. It's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be like, I have so much pain still, and she has so much pain and shame that I don't think I can hold her right now. And that is like, I have these vivid dreams of different men, how they actually hurt me, not physically per se, but emotionally, that I didn't even know. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I can release that. That's another story. But, just when you start opening that door, you have no idea of what you're releasing and what is going to come to you. So do not hesitate to start the process. It's so beautiful when you can allow yourself to see all of this, everything that we are really truly are. Because then that gives us more permission to really show up authentically. And as performers, isn't that what it's really truly about?
Yeah. And that's where truly being nothing but exactly who you are is what's going to attract in those that you're meant to resonate and affect and, inspire. What I love what you said about going back to your inner child and like her almost being like not ready, right? And you said, oh, I feel like I don't know that I can hold her. Like, what I want to say is that does happen when we first go to the inner child. A lot of times that inner child is really, feels abandoned, feels untrusting, won't look at us. But again, this is the beauty of it. We get to accept that inner child with all her resistance, with all his resistance, with all his untrusting. And we just keep showing up for that inner child, and we keep being to that inner child exactly what we didn't get, right? Because we wished our parents would just see us, hear us, continue to be there for us, encourage us to be, right? I bet a lot of performers are like very highly sensitive people, like empathic, right?
Yeah.
Our parents didn't love us and didn't explain those gifts to us, right? They instead like judged us and shamed us and wanted to toughen us up for the world and actually conditioned us out of it. And then here we are again, believing there's something wrong with me. So again, just showing that every child, like, I'm going to keep on coming here. I'm going to keep being a stand for you. I'm going to keep loving you no matter what. And it's okay that you're resistant. Like, it's all okay. The other thing I want to say is we start right where you're at. So like when people come to me, they come to me with what's going on right now, and we start there. I just meet people exactly where they're at. And then, you know, again, we trace back to the roots and origins. But what I love about this work is we're going back with purpose and intention. So we're going back to discover, explore, release, and heal, and then move you forward to where you want to be. And that's the beauty of coaching. The other thing is, you want to be with someone who's trained and understands how to hold and handle trauma, because people can go back and they can get triggered, and that's what they're afraid of. But if you're with the right practitioner, right, we can work with that. And I have a rule. I never let anybody leave my container feeling stuck in trauma or stuck in an emotion that they can't handle. We always can get them in their body and we can release it, and we can bring them to a state that they're comfortable with. That's important.
In other words, just go work with Amy, because you have to. Like, it's going to change your life. No, seriously. I don't think I've experienced, I knew I needed to go there. My inner being knew that I needed to go there, and I never had the courage to say, this is the time. And that's exactly when you showed up. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
How can people find you? Where can people find you? Yeah, give us all the good things.
Yeah, so I can be found on Facebook and Instagram, and I just go by my name. My Instagram is at Coach Colombo RN, you know, all one word, spelled how you would think it is, Coach Colombo RN. Colombo is with 3 O's. A lot of people think there's a U in there, but it's 3 O's, COLOMBO. And then on Facebook, you can just look me up. My profile is public. They're both public. Amy Colombo on Facebook. Yeah. And I just want to say I loved being here with you today. And I do give free sessions. That's how I work with people, because they need and I need to gauge that we're a good fit to work together. So it's important. It works both ways. I don't work with anyone that, you know, there's certain things people have to be ready to be coached. So there are people that come to me and they are not ready to be coached, and that's okay, you know, and they're just, we're not aligned at the moment. But if people want to explore, they're curious to know, I'd love to give you a free session. So just find me on Instagram or Facebook and reach out, and we can have a session and we can see if we're a good fit to work together or not. And then we can, you know, talk about working more after you experience what's possible for you in the container of my coaching.
Oh, just do it. Really. Okay, last question. With everything you have experienced so far and mostly learned, let's assume that your 16-year-old self would actually listen to you, and not to give her a shortcut, but a good, loving advice that could perhaps, you know, give her a little bit more, not structure, but loving advice down the road. Let's assume she actually hears you and is going to contemplate the trueness of your statement. What would that be?
I love that question. The word that comes to me when I think of my 16-year-old self, ooh, this gives me the chills, was doomed. I really felt like I was doomed based on my parenting, the abuse that I experienced. And then I was such a rebel, Susan. Oh, I was a big rebel. Yeah.
Me too.
I did all sorts of bad things because now that I understand myself, I believed I was bad, inherently bad. Otherwise, this wouldn't have been my reality. So I decided, hey, if I'm bad and I'm like abandoned by God and everybody else, like I'm going to be bad. So if I could have gone back, I would have just told her, hey, I know you think you're doomed, but none of that matters. Like none of what happened to you, none of, your parenting, the abuse, none of it defines you. None of it gets to decide who you are in this world. You get to decide. And everything is healable. And I think that's what I really would have told myself, because she just wrote the world off at that point. And I have worked with all of my inner children, and I have worked with that 17-year-old. So yeah. And that 17-year-old, she was like this, like she would not look at me. She's just so untrusting, so yeah, my biggest advice would have been like, you're not doomed. You're totally healable. You're loved. You're beautiful. You can be anything you want to be. And not sure that she would have listened, but
Well, let's assume she would.
Yes, tie her
Yeah.
down.
That's all good.
yeah.
Oh, honey, thank you so much for coming on. I really, truly feel so blessed to have that you connected with me and I got to experience all of you, or the parts of you that, are helping and healing and making a difference. So thank you so much for showing up the way you are showing up in the world.
Thank you so much. Again, I definitely feel like this was a divine connection. So likewise, Susan, this is really nice making your friendship here in the virtual space, right?
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You know the drill. Whatever was your mic drop moment or whatever stood out for you, do not hesitate to share and give Amy a call. That's what I got for you today. So we're sending you so much love. Till next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.